Alright, in this video, I want to talk about what it's like to be converted, translated, born again. And not what it's like for the actual process of that happening, but what it's like to actually live it in the world. So, what you're looking at here is just a bunch of stick figures here, right? Put some faces on them so it don't look so weird, I guess. Might like it will look a little weirder, huh? But this here in the circle is representing your family, your friends, your schoolmates, your co-workers, your social group here, acquaintances. This is the world. At least as far as you know, right? As far as you're concerned, this is society, right? And here you're concerned with what everybody else is concerned with, right? You need to work on your education and maybe even furthering that education and making sure you get a good job until you're able to set up and establish your own business or career and find yourself a spouse and get yourself some land and a home and have children, right? And then set things up for your children to be successful when you pass on, right? And that's the life there. It's all focused on everything inside of this bubble. It's as if there is no spiritual realm, there is no spiritual world. You know, these people may talk about God and believing in angels and devils and what have you, or ghosts or something, but they don't really take it too seriously because their focus and everything they really talk about and spend their time doing has to do with these things. And I guess because of boredom and emptiness, what people end up doing here is what they'll do is they'll compete with one another. Because they're just going through the motions, doing what they think they're supposed to do as a member of mankind, as a member of the world, as a member of society, and they're empty. They're bored. So they want to do the right thing, so they want to do these things, but then they'll do it in a way where they compete, right? You heard of the keeping up with the Joneses. So they'll sit there and try to compare their lives to other people's lives and be like, well, mine's better than them, so I feel better, I feel good, because my life isn't as bad as this person's or that person's or this family and that family, right? And they end up doing things to try to brag about their lives that end up harming themselves, right? Where they'll take out loans to be able to buy certain things, go on vacations and do certain things and what have you, so they can be like, look at what I can do, look at how well off we are, because they care so much about what the rest of the world thinks in this little bubble here. And they're basically just caught up in this, right? And then you're in this too. This is where you start off, right? We're all in this. And you may find ways to scheme and hustle and what have you to try to make life easier for you, right? So you can live the American dream, right? But you may take some time to step back, right? Let's say you come over to the edge here, and you're looking around, and you're looking out here, and you're starting to realize that there's there's more to this world. And then you're sitting here looking at everybody and you're seeing, I don't want what they want. It's not fulfilling, and none of them are truly happy and have joy. The only time they really have any kind of happiness to them is when they think that they've outdone somebody, that they've stepped above somebody, right? Where this starts to look more like hell and the way people treat one another than it does look like a home, a place you want to be, right? And you don't want to sit there and compete with them and be like, oh, look, my life's better than yours, and be like, hmm. And then, since you're starting to separate from that, they get a bit upset because they're like, you're supposed to compete with me. And when you lose, you're supposed to feel bad about it. Well, I sit there and feel good, right? And they just don't get why you don't care, right? Because they care about what each other thinks, even though they don't even like each other. And a lot of times they hate each other, but then they sit there and they're enslaved to caring what they think. And a lot of times it's not even what other people think. It's like this guy here, he's thinking that this guy over here is thinking something, and now he enslaves himself to that because he thinks that other person is thinking this negative thing about him. Or, she's thinking that about what this girl is thinking about her, right? And they get all worked up basically on their own imaginations, enslaved to thoughts that aren't even real, to imaginations, right? But they may even see that a little bit, but they don't get how you're able to walk away from that. And what ends up happening is you end up, let's shrink this down a little bit here. Outside here, you see Jesus. Eventually, when you looking through all the muck, right? Because when you're starting to look out here, you're going to get a bunch of, let's use yellow, false light trying to redirect you back, right? All kinds of lies and deceptions trying to get you to go the other way. You have free will, so they can't force you, but they can do all these kind of things to distract you and try to get you to go the other way. But if you end up coming through and coming to the cross, you come out. You end up, this life in here in this bubble is dead. And people don't realize that you've died at the cross here, and that you've been born again with the Spirit of God. And they think you're standing there alone, but you're not. You're filled with the Spirit of God. And they think that kind of stuff is silly and all that, because everybody in the world, they're blind. They can't see it. And you're no longer competing with them. And you just go about your life, your new life, where you're just following Jesus and hanging out with Jesus. And they don't get that. And there's two things that start to happen with this over here, right? And that is, a lot of them will start to become envious of you, of how you can just walk away and not care, and you don't get caught up in the drama, right? And instead of being like, why don't I come over here and look at what he was looking at? Yeah, why don't I come over here and take a look, and then, then I too can come on through to Jesus here, which is what you've been telling them. No, instead, they want to throw things out here and try to entangle you and draw your attention back to them. They want you focused on them as they're focused on you. Because it's like you become a light and they can't take their eyes off of you. And they want to be like you, not because they want to be you in particular, but they want to be like you in that you've walked away from everything and that this doesn't have a hold on you anymore. Because they want to be free, but they're basically like crabs in a bucket. When you have crabs in a bucket, you don't got to put on a lid, because when one crab tries to get out, they try to pull them all back in. And that's what they all try to do to you. They'll try to pull you back into this. Start thinking that you're crazy because you don't care about getting the education and the career and the woman and the children and the fancy life and all that. You don't care, because what does it matter? You're all gonna die anyway, whether you have it or not. So shouldn't you prepare for actually dying? Especially since you could die right now while you're in the middle of trying to keep up with the Joneses, and that's what you did with your life. Hey God, look at what I did with my life. I tried to compete with all these other people. Aren't I such a good person? Right? And I think that they're convicted of this when they see you. They don't understand what they're being convicted about, but they're being convicted. And then there's others that are more vindictive, right? Because some of these people, they're genuine. They're honestly like, what is going on? They don't hate you, but they still don't understand you, right? And they're kind of like, why not stay in the group? Why are you getting out? This is where our family and friends are. This is, our loved ones and everything. Why are you going to step out? Right? Because they don't realize that just because someone is part of your family or even a friend doesn't mean they truly care about you. Right? When times are easy, yeah, it may seem like they care. But what about when times get rough? Are they really going to be there? You don't know that when things are easy, right? But there is somebody who are going to be there with you through thick and thin, no matter what. That's Jesus. And everybody else that will come out. Those are your true brothers and sisters, your true family, your true friends. Right? And you trying to get them to come out and join you, but instead they want to stay in there and they want you to envy what they have and try to get back in there and compete with them. And they try to provoke you and taunt you. They try to get reactions out of you because they're trying to do two things. They're trying to get you to give them attention and make them feel good about thinking that you want what they have. That's what makes them feel good and feel like they're a success, is because you're envious of them. But in reality, it's because they're envious of you. But they want you to feel that way about them. Right? And when it's not working, then they try to provoke you and taunt and all these different things to try to get your attention and focus on them, because they want your focus. They want you, again, they want you looking this way. They don't want you focusing over here. They don't want you over here. Right? They want you on them. And this is not just for their own personal benefit there, but they also want you to focus on them and get you to react in a certain way so that they can then keep other people. Let's use a red thing. Let's say a couple of people are getting, we'll just put it on their eyes. Some of the people here, especially the youth, they're starting to get curious. They're starting to look towards the cross because of your example, right? And the other people see it, that they want to be like you in the sense that they can let go of all this and follow Jesus. You're starting to give them an example. So these people are going to want to try to get you to react in a certain way so that they can then say, well, look at this. These people here, they're no different than us. They're evil and they don't care about you and or anybody else but themselves. And right, they try to get you to respond in a way that they can use to then gossip and spread rumors about you when they're already doing that, right? Because they're trying to get these people right in here. I guess we'll do red so you can see that a little better. They're trying to get this group who's starting to wake up to think of you as trash. So they're already spreading rumors and gossip, but they know it's not true because they can see themselves, they can hear, right? So they have to then try to get you to react in a way to then be like, look, see, they're evil. And this is basically what they ended up doing to Jesus over here at the cross, right? They tried to get him to react and to defend himself so they can be like, look how God is. He's angry and vengeful. But he just sat there and took it, right? And what it ended up showing in reality is how the character of all these people, that they were willing to put Jesus to death to try to get him to react in a way to make him look bad. But he didn't ever give in and respond. And then that obviously gives a stronger influence to this group here to be like, no, you're the evil ones. Why are you trying to provoke him and why are you trying to do this to him? He hasn't done anything to you. And that will get them to come over here so that they too can come to the cross and then they can be part of that family there. And then they can start to realize the difference between, we'll put over here the physical, then over here the spiritual. And they need to understand that the physical here, this physical life here you have with your family and your friends and all this, this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. This life ends one way or another. This all is going to end. So there's no reason to hold on to it. This here is eternal and will last forever. And it's something you need to grab a hold of. And why these people are envious on the inside when they can just come out anytime they really wanted to is because they want both, right? They would come out here into the spiritual world if they could still just hold on to everything they have in there. They don't want to let any of it go. You know, these same people in here will mock the people who are addicted to alcohol and other drugs, and they think that they're low lives, right? Low lifes. And they themselves are addicted to gossip and rumors and competing with the Joneses and trying to one-up other people for no other reason, just to give them a dopamine hit, because they're addicted to exalting themselves and putting other people down. Just like any other low-life druggie, right? They are no different. And it actually reminds me of a meme here I can show to wrap this video up. And what it was a waterfall where the fall is obviously to certain doom, right? So let's put some green here to represent the sides of the waterfall here. And there's a boat here about to go over the edge. And you have two people in this boat. One guy, he's just kind of chilled out here. Kind of like he's accepted that, yeah, I'm a sinner, right? Because he's done a lot of horrible things in his life. And he's the low life that everybody looks down on, right? And then there's another person who's standing tall in here. And he thinks that, you know, he's not that bad of a person. And off to the side here, there's a guy representing Jesus. And he's like, I have one of those little life raft things. I can't remember what they're called. He's like, hey, I'm going to toss this to you. Grab a hold. Right? And this guy is like, I don't need it. Because I'm good. I'm a good person. Right? But this guy, he needs it because he's about to die. Right? And here's Jesus like, huh? You're both in the same boat. You're both going to go over that edge. You both need it. Right? But that's how the world is. Everybody needs that life raft from Jesus, that preserver. Right? But some people are like, nope, that's not for me. That's for these pathetic people. Right? They don't realize that they're Pharisees. This is the Luke 18 parable. Right? Well, there's people here who are like, oh, I don't need it. All right, well, you don't need it. This guy, he's probably like, yeah, I'll take it. He gets out of the boat, and then you go down with it. Okay. You're a fool. You're a Pharisee, right? There's no reason for you to think you're any better than anybody else. But they always justify it somehow, some way. Even if they do obvious sins, they're like, well, I go to church. I go to church on the right Sabbath day. Oh, I do the sacraments. And oh, I do this. So I'm not as bad as these people who won't go to church. Right? There's always something, some stupid thing they think justifies them and makes them better than other people. But anyway, that is that. So that's what it's like coming out and living that life, is that you start to see that other people are choosing to stay in the world, would rather go to hell than to let this world go. And because you have let it go already, they're upset that you have done it, and they are trying to get you to grab back a hold of it. Because basically, let's use a different color here to show up. Basically, this right here, I didn't mean to circle the whole spiritual thing, but the world right here is basically this boat. And the world and everything in it's going to go over and be destroyed one day. So let it go. Let go of the boat and everybody in the boat and get out. Because then everybody who doesn't want to get out of the boat, they're going to go down with it. And you need to realize that this is also like the bucket, right? And we'll just put a bunch of C's because I'm not going to draw a bunch of crabs. And you got to realize there's a bunch of crabs. But if you call on Jesus, put a J for Jesus over here, he will grab you and take you out himself. And then he makes you a child of God. And I don't want to use a C because we just used that for crab. So we'll make you a son, right? But then these crabs want to make you back in the bucket. Like, what are you doing out of the bucket? You're supposed to be in the bucket. And it's like, well, how come you don't just get out of the bucket too? But you can't focus. You can't focus on the people here too much. If they don't want to get out of the bucket, they don't want to get out of the bucket. Because if you focus on them, they're just going to sit there and pinch you and try to grab you and pull you back into the bucket. And you need to just focus on Jesus and go about your life. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. And if you like the video and the other content I put out there, please take a moment to pray to our Heavenly Father that he keeps this ministry going, even to the point where I can actually be sustained by it. That would be fantastic. Even though that seems to offend some people, but that's something I would not mind happening. And that he would watch over all of us as born-again believers and protect us. And provide for us until he comes and gets us. Just an amen in Jesus' name to that should be good as gold. And if you'd like to help us some more, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video, share the channel, interact in the comments section. These things help out so much. And don't forget to do what Isaiah said and seek out the book of the Lord and read it so that Jesus would never tell you you do err not knowing the scriptures. And if you want to help out some more, that's awesome. There's 4 ways you can donate to this ministry in the info description box if you so choose to do so. That would be greatly appreciated. So, with all that being said, thanks again for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.